Welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked, where passion meets possibility. Here's your host, Meredith Calloway.
Okay, so welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked podcast. On today's episode, we have another member of our Top Producers Club, Erica Carr from Bookitbox Travel. Welcome, Erica, to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, what I love about Erica's business, well, there's a lot of things I love about Erica's business, but I like highlighting different business models and different variations on, building a travel business around selling luxury travel. And one of the things that Erica is um, has done really well and really successfully is building a team of advisors and and really effectively. I mean, we see a lot of people building teams, but Erica has done it in a way that is really effective. So we're going to get into that later. But before we get into that, I want to start with tell us a little bit about your life and your career before you got into the travel industry.
So I really say my career started the day I graduated high school and I started selling Cutco knives. And I did this for 4 years. And it really was like a mini career during college. And I learned so much about business and sales and how to work really, really hard. I mean, it's like the enterprise car model, these college kids. So sold Cutco for 4 years, actually ran a branch office for Cutco my last summer before I graduated. And then once I graduated from college, I started with Gillette, which was they owned Oral-B at the time. So I sold Oral-B products to dental offices. That was my very first job out of college. And then I spent nearly 20 years in the dental and orthodontic space, but mostly selling software as a service products to practices all over the world.
Wow. So you were in sales from the moment you graduated from high school, or
Yep.
were you or in high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've always been in sales. Um, so what did you like about that, and what did you not like about it so much that you were looking for something else?
So I'm very financially motivated. So sales obviously feeds right into that. And I also love freedom. So I'm not a go into the office from 8 to 5 every day. Um, and so I really love the freedom and the financial components of sales. And, I always knew that I wanted to run my own business. And so I had this like entrepreneurial spirit, but I just, couldn't find what it was. I mean, I had so many ideas and thoughts over my career post college, and it wasn't until this travel thing came along that it fit and it worked. And so I loved the thought of running my own business and the freedom that comes with that, and the challenge that comes with that.
Yeah, for sure. So what we, what I love about our travel MBA program is that it's exactly for the person who's got both an entrepreneurial spirit, but also a travel fanatic side. Maybe even travel obsessed. Were you travel obsessed? Tell us about your addiction, obsession, enthusiasm for travel.
Well, gosh, I think everybody loves travel, right? And I always say, like, we have the best and coolest jobs ever. My husband's a lawyer, and I always tell him how much cooler my job is than his, and he agrees with me and loves the perks that come along with it. But yeah, no, I think it's a perfect marriage. I, grew up not traveling very well. I always say my dad wore a badge of honor for finding like the cheapest roadside motel that he could. And so as long as it had a swimming pool as a kid, I didn't care. My brother and I were just excited to swim. And then as I got into orthodontic sales and dental sales, I was attending these events, and doctors typically like to stay at nice places. So these events were hosted at 5-star luxury properties. And that really was my first glimpse into luxury travel and staying at a really nice place. And I was like, wow, this can be like part of that whole experience. And then I met my husband when I was 32, and his family really puts an emphasis on travel. And so I started traveling with them. And so it wasn't until much later in life that I really appreciated travel. I always loved to go on vacations, of course, but it just really took a different turn for me when I got a little bit, once I was an adult and a little bit later in life.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get that. So, tell us about your journey of discovering the opportunity. I know there's a lot of people, myself included, when I first considered becoming a travel advisor, I didn't really even know if that was a thing. And how did you discover it? And what were your preconceived ideas about it?
So I really discovered it on accident. Again, I wanted to run my own business at some point, but just couldn't quite figure out what it was. And it's interesting because I'm an Enneagram one firstborn kind of control freak. And so I feel like for all those years now looking back, I was trying to like force these different ideas and think of things to, what that business was going to be. And then what's so interesting about Bookitbox Travel is that it really was just organically me helping friends. They had bought airline tickets to Spain and didn't have time to plan an itinerary. And I just couldn't bear the thought of that. So I said, hey, just let me plan this trip for you. And I did. And when they came home, we all gathered on our back porch to hear about their trip and with some friends. And literally the idea was born for Bookitbox Travel. And so I had no idea what it looked like. I mean, literally no idea. There were so many things that I didn't know that I didn't know. And so really it was me finding Gifted Travel Network. And that really was where I started my learning process from ground zero.
Yeah. One of the things that I remember about your journey is that you dove so deeply into the branding process, and you've got such a creative side. And I love that part for you. I loved watching that for you. You were very clear. So tell us a little bit about like how did you come up with the name, and how is Book a Box Travel unique relative to other travel agencies?
So one of the things that I did for our friends that went to Spain was before they left, I went to Hobby Lobby and I bought a box and I bought a bunch of things that they could use on the trip, on the airplane, and put it in this box. And I made this silly, like Google document, terrible image print out from my cheap little printer. And I taped it on the top of that box and sent them to the airport. And they ended up videoing them opening this box and kind of, discovering what all was inside of it. So when they came back and we gathered on the porch, and she was talking about some of the comments and questions that she was getting on her Facebook post about that video. Um, Literally, my friend Hayden said, Book a Box Travel. That's what your business is going to be called. And I was like, yes, that's it. It was literally like this light bulb went off. I grabbed my phone. I went to GoDaddy.com. I bought the URL. And here we are nearly 6 years later. And so the box is still a huge component of what we do. And so every client gets a Book It box that's now not from Hobby Lobby. It's a branded, cute Book It box. And we just put some pre-destination fun goodies in that box and we ship it to them before departure just to get them excited about the trip that they're about to go on.
If you are the kind of person who, wants to look like a hero and wants to give, a loved one the gift of travel, just come to us. We'll do all the work. We'll tie it up in a pretty box. You
Yep.
get to look like the person who is giving this wonderful, wonderful gift. So I just
Yes.
love that about your branding. It's
Thank you.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us about some of your, turning point moments. I know one of them for a lot of people is crossing the $1,000,000 threshold. I don't know if that's one for you, but tell us about some of the moments where you're just like, "Oh, wow, okay, this is actually I've arrived.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the $1,000,000 mark is certainly that's a pivotal turning point in your career as a travel advisor. And so I think, hitting that milestone is, that's when you start to see this business differently. And it sounds like such a big number, but you can get there pretty quickly as long as you really focus on the right audience and things like that. And I think that that was a big lesson that I had to learn. Of course, anytime you start off in a new business, you say yes to everybody, right? You'll take a dollar from
Yeah.
anybody, you will plan any type of trip. And so of course, I did that for several months, and then I learned the lesson. And again, Get to Travel Network (GTN) was a big part of saying, "Hey, you've really got to hone in on who your ideal audience is." And I think that you, as a business owner, you have to really sit down and specifically identify who you're talking to, who your ideal client is, and you've got to really stay strong to those criteria.
Do you remember how long it took you to get to cross 1,000,000 in sales?
Well, I was a COVID, 19
Oh, that's
baby, so
true.
yeah. So it might have
So
taken me
that
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 long.
that put a little pause on the business.
Yeah, yeah, it did, little pause, but we survived it, and I'm like, "Well, now we can
Yeah,
survive anything."
yeah, true, very true. So if we don't count COVID, or at least the year of 2020, um, do you know how many years it took you to get there?
I don't know, I should know that. I
Okay,
could look on
but
my
don't worry
financial
about it.
spreadsheet and tell you,
But
but
now you're in multiple millions per year. I mean, you're crossing the $1,000,000 threshold line early, maybe in the first quarter or second quarter.
Mhm.
So that's super cool. Tell us about, you know, we always say at GTN that we want to help people build a business and life they love around travel.
Mhm.
And we believe that a business and a life you love should have three elements. It should have the freedom of entrepreneurship. It should have fulfillment, and that comes from truly leaning into your own brilliance and medicine, and being able to share that with your clients and make a positive difference in their lives. And then the last one is financial satisfaction. Um, Tell us about how you feel about those three things. Do you have a business and a life you love?
Yes, 100%. And, it's interesting how those things can change at different stages of your business. And I think just personally, as you have different things going on, but I think they all just kind of live in tandem together. And one of
Hmm.
the things that I did not realize coming into this that it was a pleasant surprise was just the fulfillment that this job would give. I again, everybody loves vacations and that fulfills people, but for a client to come back and say, you created memories for our family that we will cherish forever, or, just seeing couples go on vacations together and just, renew their marriages. Like that is really, really fulfilling. And something that was just unexpected.
Hmm. And what about the travel you get to do? Do you have the pinch me moments? Like, I can't believe I got to do this for a living. Tell
Oh,
us about one of those pinch me moments.
all the time. I mean, my husband and I laugh because he traveled the same way I did growing up. And so we find ourselves at like the nicest five-star properties and experiences and doing these things that we never, the 20-year-old Erica and Quentin would have never pictured ourselves being on. So it happens all the time. I mean, just the destinations we get to go to and things like that. So definitely a lot of perks that come along
Yeah.
with the territory, especially as you start to hit, sales thresholds that start to really perpetuate those invitations to those different
So
experiences.
speaking of you said Quentin traveled exactly the way you did as a child. So I would imagine you might have had a little bit of a battle bringing that mindset into your business. Did you struggle with that in terms of like, oh my gosh, how do I ask a client to pay this much for their vacation
Mhm.
or for a room night,
Yeah,
when it's like $3,000 a night? And,
yeah.
Did you have sticker shock, and how did you get over that?
Yeah, it was I remember a client trip, and they were actually in New York City, and they're five-star luxury clients, and they had kinda told me that they wanted a driver for their trip, and so I just we do private drivers all the time for, like, from your airport to the hotel and things like that. Well, they literally wanted a driver the entire time, so, like, we kinda had to modify things when they got there, and it just opened my eyes to, like and they spent, a crazy amount of money to have this driver with them the entire weekend, but that's what they wanted, and that for me was like, "Okay, I have to deliver what my clients want, not what I think is appropriate." And I say all the time, a realtor doesn't have to live in a $2 million house to sell a $2 million house to somebody. And we don't have to spend six figures on our trips to sell six-figure travel to our clients. We have to deliver what they want and how they want it.
Can you tell us about one of your favorite six-figure trips that you have planned, and maybe, drop some, numbers or things that would shock all of us?
Well, one thing that comes to mind, so we were just with it, the timing of where we're at in the year and finishing up the quarter, we were just looking at 2023 numbers and compared to 24 numbers over quarter by quarter. And we did $700,000 more in Q2 of this year than last year. And when we went back and looked at the numbers, it was because of three different six-figure trips
Wow.
that we booked in Q2. And, I thought I'd never get there. I thought, ugh, six-figure trips, you just have to have this network that's out of mind, but
Mhm.
people spend six figures on trips. It's really,
Yeah.
it's so it's happening. But those are to Africa and French Polynesia and, um, Australia, New Zealand kind of combo trips. But
Yeah.
or
So
booked people to Los Cabos resorts for 2 weeks that are
yeah.
well over six figures. So it can be anywhere in the world.
So if someone were, thinking about leaving a very successful career, and but have a lot of doubt of, but I don't know people that spend that kind of money on travel, what would you say? What would your advice be? How did you get there?
We all have to start somewhere. I certainly did not have that network and it's grown. So you just have to start with what you have. And if you deliver a really great product and you treat your clients really well, it just manifests into clients who naturally want luxury and want a really great offering and a great service.
Yeah. Yeah, and just keep, stay focused on the path ahead. Um, we believe that this is not a business you should be trying to do alone.
Mhm,
I don't think
mhm,
any business you should be trying to do alone, and that's one of the reasons why building a supportive community is so important for GTN, is because we understand how important that supportive community can be, and so it keeps you kind of on the straight and narrow. So surround yourself with people of like minds who are on a similar journey. That's and have a path, but also support yourself with the right foundation, and support yourself with developing the right mindset. Tell me about your mindset journey. Have you been developing your mindset since you began this journey?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you're a big part of that in GTN. And one of the things I remember sitting at one of the GTN events right after I'd signed up with GTN and you and Vanessa and Jen were on the stage and just talking about, that this is about not being a travel hobbyist and just making a little bit of money. This is about being a serious entrepreneur and having a serious business where we make money, but also to have freedom and flexibility and life balance. And I appreciated that so much about GTN. I remember walking away from that event like, yes, I'm in the right place. And, again, as an entrepreneur and just as a human being, like we constantly have the mindset reshifts that are happening all the time.
Yeah.
And I just think we have to be open to that as humans and and business owners.
So the last thing I want to get to is your ability to build such a great team. So take us back to hiring your first person.
Yes.
How did that feel? How did that go?
Scary. Scary. So my first hire was a virtual assistant, and it was, I mean, really 3 months into me being full-time as a travel entrepreneur after I'd left my career. And I'm a huge proponent of you have to hire ahead of growth. And so I knew like I knew that it was gonna come. And so I just had to jump off of the diving board into the deep end without my swimmies on and make that hire. And it's so scary. It is so scary, but it worked, and you have to do it. Like you just have to do it to get to the next level. And then we're now a team of 8. And yes, I've made some hiring poor choices, and I've learned from those and grown from those. And so we're in a better place now because of those hiring growing pains.
What would you say to the person who is like, "Oh, I don't wanna manage a team. I did that for 30 years in corporate. I don't wanna have to be responsible for a team anymore. I just wanna do this by myself."
Well, you have to have a network, first of all, and if depending on what kind of level you want to get to, you have to have a team. You cannot possibly do this alone. But I think the difference is if you worked at, a corporate um, job and you are managing a team, this is very different. You are now the business owner. You get to make the hiring decisions, and you get to choose the people that are going to be, on your tribe. And you
Mhm.
can go a lot further with
Yeah.
a tribe than you can alone.
One of the things that we see, as we have been coaching travel advisors now for 15 years, is there's always resistance to that first hire.
Mhm.
And then when people finally, pull the trigger and find the right person, and you see them 6 months later, they feel so free. They feel so much mo they feel lighter, and they think that having that cash flow liability is going to be a burden, and it's the opposite.
Yep.
When you hire the right person and you do it in the right way,
Mm.
um, it it's the opposite. It gives you freedom. It gives you, the ability to just, not always do everything.
Yeah. Well, and too, it's like you've gotta figure out where your value is, and, where can you make the most impact in your business. And it's not, taking a supplier's Word document itinerary and putting it into Travefy.
Mhm.
Like that is not where your brilliance is as the business owner. And so to have somebody come in and do that for you so that you can really focus on the areas where your strengths are, it just, that makes sense. But it is, every time I've made a hire, it's a little nerve-wracking, but you're exactly right.
Mhm.
It always, always has panned out. And I'm so thankful looking back because I'm like, how would we have done this without these
Yeah.
people now trained and strong and in place?
And we tell people, don't be afraid to make a mistake in the hiring process, because you learn so much from that. I mean,
Yep.
I'll never forget one of the very earliest coaching pieces of advice I got, which was really good. And it wasn't even someone that I followed for that long, but she said, hire slowly, fire quickly.
Mhm. Yes. Oh my gosh, that is a great piece of advice.
So, and that's, that makes me think of our um, collaborative spirit at GTN. You're in the top producers club, and you have done an amazing job of building relationships with other top producers. And I mean, they're like a family to you.
Mhm.
And, I would argue that you being open, because it's about giving too, right? You're not going to build
Right.
relations like that if you're not giving, and I think you lead with giving. You share, you open your book, you show people what you're doing, how you do it, you share whatever you can with. people who technically could be considered your competitors, but I don't think anybody in the Top Producers Club sees each other as competitors.
Yeah.
What do you wanna say about your family in, the Top Producers Club?
There's not a single day that goes by, a work day, that I am not in touch with somebody from the GTN network.
Yeah,
And Top Producers Club or not, but
right.
it's Top Producers Club is, obviously we're in a similar position, and a lot of us are managing teams and things like that, so we have a lot of things in common. But yeah, the network is, I truly do not know how I would live life without my GTN and TPC network.
A rising tide lifts all boats is what we love to say,
Yes, and
and,
they're fun, so that's a bonus, that they
and
are,
they're
like,
fun.
literally like friends, and so it makes it fun, and it's just the wisdom. I mean, it's just collective
Mhm,
wisdom, you know? I mean, I don't know anything about Asia, but I know I can get I
mhm,
could get 4 or 5 people today on the phone from our network, and they could tell me everything that I need to know, and it's such a sharing community, and
mhm.
that's really impressive too about what
And
GTN
then
has
that
cultivated.
probably helps your confidence when even when the earlier years, knowing that it helps your confidence to be like, you know what, even if I don't know anything about this, I have this community at my beck and call, and I can become an expert very quickly and look like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and not only that, but GTN's, preferred partners. And so,
Mhm.
those travel supplier partners, I mean, you talk about making you look like a rock star.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
mean, that was something that when I was getting into this business, I had no idea that that was
Mhm.
even a thing, to have this, destination management company who is the
Right.
expert, and for them to
Mhm.
literally get on a client call with me, and
Yeah.
I mean, literally makes me look like a rock star.
Yeah. So in closing, what I want you to do, and I'm throwing this at you, so I apologize because I didn't give you an opportunity to think about this, but think about one of the trips that you've most recently, not most, just you a trip that you have planned that you feel like most proud of.
One of the trips that I just planned that I'm super excited about is actually a team trip to Italy that we just got back about a week ago,
Oh
and
my God.
so
Wow.
it was fantastic, and I planned it with our, preferred partner for Italy, and so any Italy trip that we do, we work together, and so it was really fun to plan it for our team, and my team did not know that this was happening. It was all kind of in secret.
Oh
So,
my God.
but it's just, to go on a trip like our clients do, and to see it from that perspective is just really special and cool. And it was really cool to see my team experience an elevated
Something
way to
like
travel.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I love about that? I'm getting chills just thinking about it is, you know, we can talk about financial satisfaction, and that's one of the reasons why you want to get into this business. But honestly, I think what's even more fun about this business is what you've done. You've built a team and they all like, this is their livelihood working for you,
Yeah.
and they probably feel like you've created a work experience where they're getting out of bed and saying, "I can't believe I get to do this," especially when you treat them with a team trip like that. Like, that's just so amazing.
Yeah. It was
That
really
that's
cool.
fulfilling, and
Yeah.
that's so much more rewarding. It's so much more important, I think, than just the financial upside to it.
100%. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really a proud moment for me to just see the collision of, like, our team come together in, Italy, which is magical, of course, and for us to physically be with a partner that we've worked with for, 4 years now, and for that all to come together, like, it was just a really fulfilling moment for sure.
I love that. I love that. And that's a fantastic place to end this conversation. Um, how can people get a hold of you if they are curious about Book a Box Travel? Maybe they feel like they forgot someone's birthday and want to give a really nice gift or an
Yeah.
anniversary.
We can swoop in and be your hero. Absolutely. We do it for husbands all the time, and the wives never know. It's great. We're on social media at Bookitbox Travel, and our website is also bookitboxtravel.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Erica. You're amazing.